What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Battlefield 6 has quite a few optics to choose from. And while that's great, unfortunately, in the menus themselves, you don't get to see the sight picture of the optic, or the reticle that you're going to be seeing on the optic. And as a result, if you're trying to find out which one is your preferred one, you're going to have to go through each one individually and boot up the firing range, for instance. And in order to do that, you have to have that optic unlocked in the first place. And so that can be quite tedious to go through to try to find your preferred optic. And as a result, in today's video, I wanted to share some side-by-side comparisons so you guys can see exactly what the sight picture looks like with each of these optics, as well as the reticle, to help you decide which one you prefer. Because at the end of the day, this largely comes down to personal preference. And let's not mess around. Let's dive right into this with my low zoom optic comparison. So these are all of the sights from a 1x to a 1.25x. And I'm sure many of you guys have already noticed with my videos, my preferred optic here is the OSA 7. I think that's just really nice and clean. It's not obstructive. It's got a very thin frame to it. I also like the fact that it's the only one of these that has a green reticle, and I just find that tends to stand out more than the really faint red reticles that all of the other ones have. I mean, if it was a brighter red, I'd probably want to go in that direction, but this bright green looks great to me. And that's why for me, the OSA is the clear winner. But again, this comes down to preference. If I want to branch outside of that, the Mini Flex is pretty solid as well, and I also quite like the ROS. Whereas the other ones, I just find the frame on the sight to be a little too thick and therefore obstructive, and that's why I generally stay away from the RMR, the CQ RDS, and the 2 Pro. Also with that 2 Pro, I hate that reticle. It is way too thick, way too big, and it often just covers your target when you're trying to stretch your ranges out at all. Now, let's bump our zoom level up a little bit from 1.5 up to 1.75, and these are all of the sights within this range. If I'm going in this direction, I really like the 1P87. That one's just got a nice big viewing window, so it's less obstructive there. You can see a little bit more around your reticle. So if there are multiple enemies, for instance, it just gives you that little bit of extra peripheral vision within the sight window itself. And also out of these, I quite like the ROM. Again, it's got a fairly big sight window, and it doesn't have a super thick frame like the next one, the 3VZR. So those are my preferred ones within this range. Then from a 2 to 4 magnification, these are all of the optics we have available. And generally, I don't like getting into this range at all. I prefer the lower zoom optics for anything that's not a sniper rifle. However, if I had to pick one of these, it would be the BF2M. That 2.5 magnification optic, that one is nice and clean. I like the reticle on that as well. But of course, that's just my preference on these. Then bumping it up to our 4.5 to 5 magnification optics. Again, I generally don't like getting into this range, but you can see them all here. Out of these, I would probably go with the LDS, just for a nice big sight picture and a fairly clean reticle there as well. Now after that, I did want to isolate the thermal optics, even though the zoom levels are totally different here. They're a very different style of optics, so I thought I'd just compare them side by side. On the left, we've got the Grim, and on the right, we have the PAS 35. The PAS 35 is a very obstructive optic with a super small sight picture on it. So the Grim is the clear winner here, at least in my opinion. And now let's get into the variable zoom optics, at least the ones that tend to be available on regular guns like non-sniper rifles, non-DMRs. The first one here is the SU-230 LPVO, and this is a 1 to 4 magnification optic, and you can see the 1 magnification on the left and the 4 magnification on the right. This one does have a bit of a green tint to it, and you might be wondering if this somehow like highlights enemy players or anything like a thermal sight, and no, that's not the case. This is what an enemy looks like when aiming at them with this. After that, we have our 1 to 5 magnification variable zooms. We have the Mars F LPVO on the left, both low zoom and high zoom, as well as the NGFC LPVO. This one's not typically available on most like regular assault rifles, for instance. However, it is the default optic on the M277. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of either of these ones. But then taking it up another magnification level here are the 1 to 6 magnification variable zooms. And the MCCO on the left is pretty interesting. When you zoom out all the way, the reticle becomes so small, it's practically invisible. So very, very clean sight picture, but you might have a hard time picking up the reticle when zoomed out a bunch. Whereas with the DVO, it's a similar story as far as the actual like red dot goes, but you can at least see the black lines nice and clearly there, so it helps you center your target. And therefore, I actually prefer that over the MCCO if I am going to be using it in the low zoom format. And with that, that pretty much wraps it up for the optics that tend to be available for the non-sniper rifles and non-DMRs in the game. Although not every single one of those is available on every single gun. Some of them are more so on LMGs rather than like SMGs, for instance. But now let's get into the sniper rifle category, and there is a lot of crossover with DMRs here as well. But these are our standard higher zoom optics that you'd tend to find on sniper rifles. The first one on the left, the SVPS, this is the default optic for the M2010 as well as the SV98. Then we've got the SSDS, another 6x optic with a much better reticle, at least in my opinion. I definitely prefer that reticle. Then bumping it up to an 8 magnification, we have the NFX as well as the LERT. And then finally, for the highest zoom optic currently in the game, we have the RVPS with a 10 magnification on it. Now, those are just the non-variable, non-thermal optics for sniper rifles. We still got a few more to get through here, so let's have a look at the variable sniper optics. Keeping in mind that I believe all of the sniper rifles can use all of the other variable zoom optics that we've seen already. These are just additional ones that are only available on sniper rifles and I believe some of the DMRs. But on the left, we've got the SM variable, which is a 2 to 8 zoom. And on the right, we have the IP88, which is a 3 to 10. So when it is at its maximum magnification, it actually ties the RVPS as the highest zoom optic. And this just leaves us with one last optic to cover here, and this is the TSHD, which is a thermal 6 magnification optic. And it's got a very similar look to the other thermal sights, but obviously higher zoom, bigger sight window here. I actually quite like how clean this all is. And I'm looking forward to diving deeper into sniping down the road and potentially using this optic because I quite like the looks of it so far. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for a comparison of all of the optics in Battlefield 6, or at least all of the main ones. There's a chance there's some like unique hidden optics somewhere in there that's only available on like one gun or a very small handful of guns. But these were the ones I was seeing show up basically across the board at least. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the optics in this game, as well as the reticles? And I'm curious to know what your preferred optics are for various scenarios. Like, what are your preferred low zoom optics? What's your preferred sniping optic? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.